Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing really well. It's the 27th of June 2024. I'm Gary Waterman. I am a former UK police constable. I'm a Christian and I'm a victim of this international government fraud. Now, everything I've said over the last few months has been supported by evidence. Not only evidence, but evidence acquired from the government's own registration system and their incorporation documents, as well as other internet-based resources. Evidence that you can verify and corroborate yourself to see its validity. And I've come to one simple conclusion in all of this, and that is that our government and their organisations are an organised criminal group, a criminal syndicate with a criminal system in place to defraud and exploit most people and also cause suffering to millions, including innocent children in all of this, the most innocent of all. The evidence that I've acquired recently suggests that the royal family and those above our governments, such as the World Economic Forum, and no doubt those above them that are not exposing themselves, are behind this system of crime. It must stop. Now, I have evidence that I've recently acquired that suggests that many of those that are actually talking out, supposedly helping the people, may well be there to provide distraction, misinformation, to hide, prevent exposing the real truth in all of this. This is the truth. This system of fraud is the key to most of the world's problems. I cannot emphasize that enough. I have evidence now showing that many of these individuals supposedly helping the general public or the people are actually in collusion with my company, where this all started, with individuals within my company having clear connections to the intelligence agencies, international banking, the royal family, the Russian intelligence agencies, Ukraine, and government officials. Everything I am doing is because I am on a quest for truth, with the understanding that truth must be the foundation for all relationships. Without truth to then generate trust and integrity and transparency, everything will crumble. Now, it's clear that there is evidence suggesting that the directed energy systems in place are a key part of their plan of potential depopulation against the innocents. This system of fraud has enabled this through the crime in the first place at the heart of this, the creation of organisations to remove accountability and liability for whatever it is they intend to do. I'm going to show you more evidence now in relation to the directed energy systems. This is a message I had from a person called Mark Steele in the last couple of days. If you don't know him, he claims to be very knowledgeable about the technology of the 5G systems and how it's integrated into the lighting, and makes claims that they are directed energy weapons that are harmful to the general public. And this was a message. I've just screenshot it and redacted part of the message to protect other people within it. And this is a link that was within that message to a government website. It's a website that we're going to have a look at in a minute. And I've been liaising with Mark for a little while now. And aside from Mark's evidence, I have serious concerns about this. Let me just make this clear. I can't verify and corroborate Mark's evidence, but I 100% am extremely concerned, and everything that I've said is based on my own verifiable and corroborative evidence as somebody who was a professional risk assessor of the threat of risk and harm. Okay, so I just want to make that clear. And since over the last few days, I've established that those others, that have been trying to undermine Mark's concerns for quite a long time, and seemingly before I was even on the scene, there's now evidence showing that they have been in collusion with my company. Okay, so with individuals within my company. So we're going to talk about that in another video. This is the website, the link, and I do suggest you go and look at this. I'll try and put it in the description of the video if I can, if I remember. And I'm going to read it to you, and you'll see how important this is. Now, bear in mind, Mark didn't send me this to look into this any further. I've done this myself, which has led to the evidence I'm going to show you. I'm going to read this to you. And it's a press release from, you can see at the bottom there, the 14th of September 2023, and it's by the Right Honourable Sir John Whittingdale, OBE, who is from the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology within the government. And it says £88 million research and development booster for innovative connectivity to future-proof UK mobile network. And this is very important. Sporting venues and tourism hotspots will see trials of new mobile tech to increase the resilience of the UK mobile network, thanks to £88 million of UK government research and development investment in innovative connectivity. So in locations where you have many people in one area, condensed into a small area. Government announces £88 million investment in innovative open 5G connectivity solutions across the UK. Funding awarded to 19 projects through the Open Networks Ecosystem in brackets 1 competition, designed to demonstrate the feasibility and reliability of technology. Now remember that company, because we're going to look at that in a minute. And I'm not going to read the rest of it, but it basically says that in September they were proposing an £88 million budget to put new technology, 5G technology, in stadiums, so sports stadiums, football stadiums presumably, and tourist areas where there are lots of people in one place at one time. Now let's look at that company. Now when you search for that company on that government website, it brings up this as the first choice to look at: Open Network Services Limited. So we're now looking at the Companies House register on the overview. And you can see they were incorporated at the top there in January 2002, 4 months after the World Trade Center disaster. At the bottom, the nature of the business: information technology, consultancy activities, other information technology services and activities. On the incorporation document, it immediately links to 788 to 790 Finchley Road in London. This is an address notorious with international government fraud, dictators, the mafia, corrupt politicians, and defrauding the general public through the taxation system. Go and look and type in Finchley Road fraud, and you will see what that says. It also states on there in relation to Barbara Kahan and a company called A1 Company Services, and mentions the one-day secretaries coming in or directors coming in and then resigning on the same day, which is an indicator of the fraud. And I am finding that throughout my research. So already we have a sinister link to the research in relation to that company. Going to page 3 of 16. You'll see that Temple Secretaries is on the document, and that company is important. It links through to the fraud, to Jeffrey Epstein, Max Clifford, etc. And remember, we're not just talking about incorporation companies with these links. We are talking multiple links. There's far too many for it to be a coincidence. And like I keep saying, variations of addresses, the same companies, not just incorporation companies, same companies featuring throughout as well, and the same names cropping up on documents, but within different companies. Okay, so they're moving people's names around and utilising them in different companies. They're probably not even real names. Going into the people tab on the Open Network company, you'll see Michael Lynn. If you click on Michael Lynn, you can see 5 companies in relation to that person, and there's various other similar companies: ONS Communications Limited, Open Network Services Group Limited. And when you go into the company, that company, you can then go in the people record and see Michael Rees, and they were appointed on the same time that it was created in 2002 or incorporated. And go into that person to then click onto that person, and they are associated with this company, TAH Limited. And here is TAH Limited. And immediately you'll notice the address is in Poole, in Dorset, not far from where this all started, where my evidence started to be acquired. Now let's go into this company. And you can see it was incorporated in 1972. and dissolved in 2016. And this is the overview page, and you can see the previous company's names that this was registered as, and the last one was the Accounting House Consultancy Services Limited, and it changed its name on the 12th of March 2001. You can see it on the right hand side there. 4 months before Larry Silverstein purchased the lease to the World Trade Center. But importantly, if you look at the bottom, now remember Companies House would have input this information onto this record, and you can see that they've entered the company name of Farnham Office Supplies Limited, and on the right of that you can see that they are claiming it had that name from the 6th of November 1972 until the 12th of September 1988. There is no other name that is mentioned between those dates. However, when you go into the incorporation document, you have a completely different name. Okay, Hamer Line Limited, and the date on that document is the same, the 6th of November 1972. Okay, so you can see this within the filing history of that company. And again, this shows fraud because they've lied, haven't they? This is lies, it's deceit, and therefore it is fraud because they have put the dates from the 6th of November to 1972 right up until 1988. It only had that name, Farnham Office Supplies Limited. Well, that's not true, is it? That is a lie. And they've deliberately done that, even though they've had the document to be able to put it onto the register. It's fraud, 100% government fraud. Now let's move forward back into TAH Limited in the People Records. Okay, so we're just going back a screen. Now, if we go into this person, Robert John Conway, you can see they've got a company, Happy Minds Limited. I thought that was quite interesting just to show that. But if we go into their record, they have a company called Europlacer Technology, again of an address in Poole, and it was dissolved in January 2024. Now that's very significant potentially. It appears we have to consider that they're panicking and they're trying to dissolve these companies. And you can see it's not a new company. Okay, so it was created in 1997, and then 27 years later they're dissolving the company after my inquiries progress and I publicise the fraud. That I suspect they are panicking and dissolving these companies. You can see the original company name at the bottom there was Speedprint Technology Limited. We look onto the incorporation document, Speedprint Technology Limited. You can see there's a company here called Byview Limited. Byview Limited. Now, if you look for Byview Limited, there is no company now registered. It shows there used to be because they're attached to personal appointments. So when you search here on Google, you can see it comes up with Byview Limited, but not the overview, so not the register. And you can see that they were appointed to 8,310 companies, but there is no actual company registered under that name. So it's been removed, or it was never registered in the first place. Going back into Europlace company and into the people record, and you can see this person, Julian Boardman. And if you go into them, you have this management company, 6 to 17 Hessery Place Management Company Limited, and immediately I recognised this address. Now this is very close to where my company is based. It's just down the road, and I recognised it because it's linked to Fox's Property Management Limited that we'll come to in a minute. Looking on the incorporation document, you can see it's an active company. And here you go, Fox's Property Management Limited. And you can see the address is the same. And this address, with my other research going into it, it links through to illegal entity companies, many of them, many real estate companies. It links to the councillors. It goes through to my company. But it also goes through to and links in with research for the special advisor for Rishi Sunak, and who has been the special advisor for the last few prime ministers, Dougie Smiths. Smith. There's also connections through to Ghislaine Maxwell via a company called Farah Management, I believe. And as we know from my other research, Farah and Co. Links directly to Ghislaine Maxwell through the Companies House register and her companies that she was part of. Going back into 6 to 17 Hessere, we have Ludovic Blackburn. And Ludovic connects, when you click on his name, to Crown Place Poundbury Management Company Limited. Crown Place Poundbury Management Company Limited. Now, I knew, having lived in the area for a long time, that Poundbury was owned by the Prince of Wales. Okay, so this is an area near Dorchester in Dorset, and this is an article which is very important. It's from ITVX that you can see, and it's dated Monday the 12th of September 2022, and it states Prince William becomes the new owner of Poundbury in Dorset following King Charles III's proclamation. Now, this is very important because I started identifying the emission of money from my company before July, July 2022, but I started to establish the forged bank documents around this time, July, September. And on the 11th of July, what really triggered me to investigate further was me knocking on the acting chairman's door, who lived in the building at the same time, the same building that I was living in, to which our company related, and me asking to view the bank documents, and then becoming extremely angry with me, and then resigning 2 days later. This then led, which we'll talk about in a minute, to the management company resigning and 2 others. Now, that was on the 13th of August 2022. And here we are on Monday the 12th of September. Okay, almost a month, less than a month later, we have the King, now the King, Prince of Wales. And it says the ascension of King Charles III to the throne means a new owner for Poundbury in Dorset. The new Duke of Cornwall, Prince William, takes on this role from His Majesty, who has always been very passionate about the project and a developer himself. Now, real estate is huge for all of this. This is how I found out about this fraud, through those initial inquiries. And real estate is very significant in relation to it all, because it allows the ability to launder money through those companies. This is why I believe there's so many, but also the ability to defraud and victimize people through real estate, which is worth, as we know, millions, if not billions, over the years, and potentially a lot more than that. We're talking more like trillions. And this is why this is all so important, and it is all starting to come together. And reading on, the idea behind Poundbury is to enable people to live more sustainable lifestyles. Now, remember, when the king was, if he's a real king, there's lots of evidence to suggest that the royal family are actually imposters. But that's a whole other subject, and there's evidence coming to light in relation to that. But we have to, if we remember that the king, when he was the Prince of Wales, was very much into climate change, emphasising that climate change is an issue and that something needs to be done about it. And this also supports that. But of course, if you're somebody that was very sinister and involved in nefarious activities, this would allow what we are now seeing to be brought to fruition. So we're now seeing the cloud spraying. The Met Office are confirming that that is happening, or chemtrails, shall we say. The Met Office is confirming that that is happening, and that they are spraying particles into the atmosphere. They're saying it's to do with global warming, to reflect the sun and to assist with preventing global warming. But then 2 airline pilots have said it's actually sinister poisoning of the planet to kill the life off and to kill people. And that has to be considered, doesn't it, with all of this evil stuff? Let's face it, this is all evil, okay? And just read on. It is built on land owned by the Duchy of Cornwall. The estate set up in the 14th century to provide the heir to the throne with an income independent from the sovereign. So it was there to set up an income from real estate and land management, okay, in the 14th century. Now remember, this connection is very quickly now from that 5G system being rushed to be put up now in stadiums and in busy tourist areas, with all of the fraud behind the risks of hiding the accountability and liability in the potential health risks, and very serious health risks, let's face it, with all of this evidence. So you can see how this is all linking in. Now, it mentions Duchy of Cornwall. Within my evidence, there's also a link to, I believe, the Duchy of Cornwall company itself. There's another company that you can see within my Rishi Sunak document and evidence that links to the royal family, where they're changing the company names, appearing to remove the certain names from the company after this fraud is being reported. It also links to the intelligence agencies. Again, it links to directed energy weapons companies, okay, that are also then associated through Companies House to the 5G companies as well, okay, and the street lighting companies. And it also links through to pooled pension funds. And we know that the evidence, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating this, shows that the directed energy weapons companies are almost immediately associated with the Nightingale beds and the hospitals that were set up supposedly for COVID. But it's looking like the whole thing is a cover for the 5G. Now, going back to the King, this is very important because the King obviously was the Prince of Wales, where Companies House is based and where these illegal entities were created utilising Companies House. It's very clear that they must have been involved in this. They control the register. The forgery must be being done by them. And then when you go into these illegal entity companies and them dissolving and the application for them dissolving, you can see that the money from those illegal criminal companies goes back to the Crown. And I'm going to show you a little example of that now. Okay, so we're going to have a look at Swift Incorporations Limited, just to show this. I have shown this before on previous videos. But if you go into Swift Incorporations on the Companies House register, this is one of the companies that was used in starting up my company, remember. And despite operating since... bear with me. Oh, we can see here. Despite operating, see on the right there, since September 1985, they dissolved on the 21st of November 2023. So after the fraud was being extensively reported by me, and I was starting to publicise it because I knew that government organisations were involved. And if we go into the filing history, so I suggest they were panicking, and they dissolved it to remove any further accountability or liability. What if we look at the application for their termination, or for their where is it? Sorry about this. Okay, now I believe it's this document. Oh no, it's not. Go back. Application for strike off. Okay, so if we go into this document, we can see this. This is the application for the company to dissolve. And you can see it's Swift Incorporations Limited. And somewhere on here, if I can recall correctly, here we are. Sorry about that. At the top of the page 1, I believe. Yeah, page 1, it says, this is an important notice and should not be ignored. The company named is applied to the registrar to be struck off the register and dissolved. Please note that on dissolution, any remaining assets will be passed to the Crown. Okay, so the money from these criminal organisations goes back into the Crown when they dissolve illegal entity companies created fraudulently. That means that the Crown is complicit to this crime. 100%. Now, going down on page 2, you can see these two names were the applicants. And on the page 3, you can see that Vistra Trust Limited was the company involved in the application and dissolving. And this address, Templeback, 10 Templeback, Bristol, features throughout the fraud, not just in relation to these companies, but others as well. Now, looking on the Lloyds Banking Group, remember I acquired forged Lloyds Bank documents and the complaint has never been finalised. In fact, I've submitted a report naming Charlie Nunn as a suspect in relation to this crime because my complaint was made directly to him and his team, or the team that surrounds him, and that has never been finalised. And here we have somebody with Lloyds Bank, Sir Robin Budenberg or Budenberg, CBE, and he is the chair of the Crown Estate. And you can see from all of the evidence that I'm presenting that Lloyds Bank feature throughout the fraud. They have many illegal entity companies. They link to people within my company, and they also link to closely to all of the nefarious activities that we're seeing, and on their actual incorporation documents for those companies as well. And there's multiple links through to the child trafficking throughout that as well. This is just showing a document that I produced a while ago, and it shows articles from the Daily Echo that links very, very closely to all of this fraud. This is within my public document file. I'm not going to read all of this because it does also relate to another video. But you can see on here some screenshots taken, bear with me, confirming that, and there's Nigel Farage on there as well, which we'll talk about later. There's links to JP Morgan through this, but the important bit just in relation to what we're discussing is a bit further down. Okay, so this is articles and LinkedIn screenshots and from Companies House confirming that Graham Monroe, who was part of JP Morgan Bank, was employed by the SWIFT international transaction system used by most banks in one of the lead positions. JP Morgan links to people within my company. Okay, remember I acquired the forged bank documents through my company, and their family, people within my company, appear to start up JP Morgan banks and are linked to the intelligence agencies. But also here, you can see an article from 2023 last year on the left, top left there, March 2023. Samantha Emery of Lloyds Bank has also been named to the board for the SWIFT International Transaction System. Now, most banks use this system, and that was started up by SWIFT Incorporations Limited and Jordans and Sons Limited, the same illegal entity companies that started my company as well. So you can see how this all links in. Poundbury, the area in Dorchester, will show how it links to my company now. And remember, we're not far away from the 5G research for that company on the government website in the first place. And this is a Wikipedia for Poundbury, and it says Poundbury is an experimental urban extension on the western outskirts of Dorchester in the county of Dorset, England. The development is led by the Duchy of Cornwall and has been endorsed, has the keen endorsement of King Charles III when he was Prince of Wales and Duke of Cornwall, under the direction of its lead architect and planner, Leon Cryer. Sounds like a German name, which does appear to tie in. If you go and look at the Albert Pike document and the Silent Weapons of Quiet Wars document, it all seems to tie into this sinister plan. I'll read on. Its designer, so this is its designer, is based on traditional architecture and new urbanist philosophy. And here's some other articles in relation to Poundbury. Has a new owner. The town that Charles built at the bottom, 30th of April 2023. And going back now, so we're now just going back again to that company, and Ludwig is connected to another Poundbury company, Abbey Court Poundbury Management Company Limited, and another one, Pavilion Yard Poundbury Management Company, and another one, Crown Square
Poundbury Management Company Limited. Now, I'm only showing some of this, otherwise I'll be here for hours and hours, but you can see there's a very clear connection now from the research of that 5G company through to Poundbury Company, the fraud throughout. Now, obviously, there'll be lots of other illegal entity companies. I've just shown you some examples as we're going. And you can see and start to build a picture as to how the royal family, and particularly Prince Charles and the King, if you believe they're the real king, are heavily integrated into this system of fraud. Now, going back to Fox's Property Management Limited of 6 Paul Hill, Bournemouth, you can see it here. You've got a company called Roseville Lodge Management Company. And if you go onto their incorporation document, they were also started with Jordan's Limited and Swift Incorporations Limited. And notice within the box at the top there, it's potentially a forged document. The font is different. The line would normally be across the middle of that box horizontally. And that is not there. And again, that's an illegal entity company. So we're going to look at Fox's Property Management, just to confirm there it was listed on the people with 6 to 17 Hessere company that we looked at earlier. Again, 6 Paul Hill Road. You can see they've got 215 appointments, either current or previous. And when you look at Fox's Property Management, it goes to the various companies, but here's one example of the Bays RTM Company Limited, and of course 6 Paul Hill is the other is the same address. And this is where it connects to my company, because this is the current management company for my company, Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, and you'll see that in a minute. You can see the Bays is written at the top. And very closely linked was the Oasis Pool Management Company, Management Limited Company. And whilst still at the property and being a director, and when I realised what was going on and how serious this was becoming, they requested payments from me, but they requested it, my new management company requested it in relation to this company. Now that I found that very interesting, and it's because that company links to our previous management agent, the same company that resigned when I wanted to discuss what was happening with our accounts and the fire safety, and where they completely refused to discuss anything. So there was a connection that I wasn't aware of, that they didn't tell me about, between the current or new management company and the old one that resigned. So there was it's very apparent that there was a collusion between all of them. And the evidence I have shows that all of these management companies, many of them, are all interconnected through directors that are resigning, similar addresses or same addresses being used, etc., etc. It's appears to be a huge criminal organisation of fraud and corruption.